Hey guys, and welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything. My name is Pete, and today we're continuing a little segment on this channel that we like to call Legacy Reviews. If you've not been by the channel before, or you've never seen this segment, welcome. This is a segment on the channel where I review the original trilogy, the first 3 shows of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, GX, and 5Ds, obviously, in sequential order, and I kind of give my thoughts, predictions, theories on that episode and the episodes to come. The reason I can do that is because I am someone who started with VRAINS. I never seen the original trilogy. VRAINS was my first Yu-Gi-Oh! Show in its entirety, and now I'm going back watching the other shows. I have an interest in it, and I talked to Dylan about it, and I wanted to jump back into it, and I get to go back and not know anything that's going on whatsoever, not have any idea really who these characters are, the plot lines, where anything's going to go, and I hopefully give my thoughts to you guys in a fresh perspective that makes you, either want to rewatch the shows with me or kind of watch them for the first time just as I am. This week we're doing episode 12 of the original trilogy here, kicking us off, guys, with Duel Monsters, so I'll be right back with that. Alright guys, so let's start us off with the Duel Monsters side, episode 12, Black Flame, Red Eyes, Black Dragon. So the title of the episode right off the bat, right? You know you're going to get a card, a monster, in this episode called Red Eyes Black Dragon, and this name kind of struck a little bit of nostalgia for me at first, because I was like, I watched a little bit of Duel Monsters as a kid, don't really remember anything, and I had some cards as a kid, and I remember Red Eyes Black Dragon being one of those cards that everyone wanted. I didn't remember what it looked like, but they wanted it. It was the cool thing besides Blue Eyes White Dragon. And then as I talked to Dylan and he was, watching Yu-Gi-Oh! And decided to do this channel, he would always say that Red Eyes Black Dragon was his favorite card, favorite monster of all time in any show. And I asked him that recently, and he said the same thing all these years later. So you knew that this card, this monster would appear in this episode, but the weird thing I'm thinking throughout the episode, when it comes on the field, is who is going to have it and how is this going to stay in the show? But we'll get more to that, guys. So we kind of kick off with a little bit of a recap of the last episode, which was just really symbolizing Honda and Jinochi's relationship that they had with each other, and it could be rough, and there's a little bit of fighting between them, and tough to show each other love, but they do care about each other, and that was symbolized right on the field when Jinochi is in the battle, with Dinosaur, Rekuzo, whatever, that they have the two, battle guards protecting each other. Honda's battle guard protected Jinochi's battle guard, even though he doesn't even know how the cards work. So we kind of kick off that, and it kind of destroyed Dinosaur's, kind of Sonic Dragon or whatever, and Jinochi goes right back on the attack after that happens, attacks with the battle guard, kind of destroying some of his face-down defense monsters, and it seems like Jinochi is really having a turnaround in this duel. It looks good, his friends are happy for him, the battle guards are kind of balancing their power off of each other. And, Honda says, oh, it's the power of our friendship or whatever. And when someone says that, that the other character that they're dueling or whoever's in the scene that's usually the antagonist, they're going to have something to say about it. They're going to mock that. And so, Dinosaur not only mocks that, but he goes, oh, well, you still haven't faced the most powerful card in my deck yet. You better hope I don't draw it. The next card he draws, literally the next card, happens to be Red Eyes Black Dragon. So, I mean, we jumped right into it in this episode, which kind of was the first weird thing that I thought in this episode, because this episode is a tale of two tapes, is the way I would say it. It's very weird. You would think most of the episode would have to do with the second part of this duel. It seems like it's a pretty big deal. It's great character development for Jinochi. He's once again on the line, with his star chips here, that if he doesn't win this duel, he's losing all of them, and he's off the island. He's kicked out of Duelist Kingdom. So there's heavy stakes going on here, especially more for him than it is for, Rekuza being, May's servant and all that other crap. So you would think most of the episode would have to do with their duel, except it's a tale of two parts that at one point in the middle of this, literally, we completely stop with this duel. It ends, it's over, kind of as an anticlimactic feeling to it. You don't get the satisfaction of seeing some reactions. and then it goes to something else, which we'll get into. But, you know, he jumps out, gets the Red Eyes Black Dragon, and I forgot what the card looked like, and I'm like, damn. The monster comes on the field, and I'm like, that is a sexy-ass card. Like, that is an awesome-looking monster, and I understand why Dylan and so many people around the world could love this card. And then I stopped for a moment, and I went, hold on, wait a second. If this card is so popular, if this monster is Dylan's favorite, it's a lot of people's favorite, how in the hell does Dinosaur Rakuza, he has it, his card, right? That wouldn't make any sense. He could be a character in the show, but I don't think he's going to be a major one of the people that we're always seeing dueling. You know, he's not part of the four. He's not part of Honda and Anzu and, you know, Yugi and Jinochi. He's not part of them. He's not even Kaiba or the villain right now in Pegasus. He's not any of those people. So he's not going to be, to me in my head, I think, he's not going to be that recurring of a character that this card becomes so popular because of him. And so now I'm thinking, hold on. You have Kaiba with his card of Blue Eyes White Dragon. You have Yugi with, you know, Dark Magician or Black Magician, however you want to say it. What is Jinochi's ace? You know, what's his ace monster? You know, he doesn't even really know his deck well. We don't even really know his deck well. And I go, what if somehow I literally thought this in the episode. I said, what if somehow he gets Red Eyes Black Dragon? That would make sense. He seems to be the second or third biggest duelist that they've established right now, kind of behind Yugi and Kaiba. He seems to be getting a lot of airtime. I would imagine Jinochi is going to be part of this show probably for the foreseeable future through the 200-something episodes there are. Wouldn't it make sense that this card became so popular because it was a prominent character's ace that you've seen duel with it a ton of times? Well, out of these two characters, who's that character on the field right now? It's Jinochi. It's not Dinosaur over there. And so I was like, there has to be a way that Jinochi at some point in the show, doesn't have to be now, but at some point during the show is going to get Red Eyes Black Dragon as his ace. Well, man, I ended up being really right. I kind of nailed nailed it on the head right there as I'm going through the episode. But that was one thing I thought immediately right off the bat, and that was just because I know how popular that card is. And Dinosaur talks about, like, Maye is surprised how he has such a rare card, because when they probably battled or whatever on the boat, he didn't bring anything like that because, he was trying to get other things out of the situation. But, he immediately attaches, like, Dragon Claws to it, powers up the attack to, like, 3,000, blows away the battle guards in one shot, and now Jinochi, who is seemingly in such a good spot literally 2 minutes ago, is now being told that Lame's friendship doesn't amount to much, and that the cards that represented that, his actual life points in this duel, everything is completely wiped out. May's even surprised and impressed by Rekuza, that's saying that, like, oh wow, my servant's not that bad when he tries. She always has to have that kind of starkiness. And then we get the, Jinochi, hey, is this the end? Anzu's asking, Yugi, like, oh, is there any way he can win? And Yugi knows how he can win. It's a pretty obvious way that gets revealed 30 seconds later. But he's like, oh, I promised Jinochi I wouldn't say anything. Jinochi, being the moron that he is, and I'm sorry if it's harsh to say that, but come on. He has Time Wizard on the field in face-down position. The guy forgets about it and is just pouting about, like, oh man, this is it, I'm going to lose. His friends are saying, hey, don't give up. He doesn't even realize that card is there until Rakuza says something about it. And even May points out, like, oh, you idiot, like, why did you tell him the way that he could defeat you? He forgot that card was on the field. It's one of his most prominent cards, one of his most important cards in his entire deck so far that we've seen. And yet, he forgets that it's on the field when there's really nothing else face down on the field. So I thought that was pretty dumb. But it goes to a moment where the reason why Rekuza says something, why Dinosaur says something, is because that card, he realizes, is powerful. He also correctly realizes that Jinochi has no idea how to use it, which is completely true. But he remembers that this so-called amateur beat May. He beat her with Time Wizard. So now I have previously, Dinosaur's thinking, lost to May. If I had that card, I can now beat May as well. Beat Mai, however you want to say it as well. And so he, right here in the episode, I went, there it is. As soon as he mentioned Time Wizard, I was like, he's going to make a deal, another stipulation where they're going to put their two most rare cards on the line, and the loser gets to keep the card and also gets the other opponent's rare card. And I went, that's it. I was correct. That's exactly how Jinochi is going to get Red Eye's Black Dragon. He is going to win this because you know he's too prominent of a character to lose and get kicked off the island. You know he's going to win this, and you also know that that's how he's going to get his ace. That makes complete sense. So, you know, as Jinochi is shocked by that, and he's saying, oh, hey, it's a super rare card, he goes, wow, Time Wizard must be just as important, just as rare, just as valuable, and he didn't even realize, he doesn't even realize how to use it. And so that kind of goes on. Jinochi obviously agrees to it because he has no other choice, even though, you know, May is not really happy with Dinosaur not only pointing that out, but also putting his card on the line. And so, you know, Jinochi gets the idea now to use Time Wizard. He puts out Time Roulette, which has like a 1 in 2 chance of either, I would assume, the monster destroying itself, and I think it has like 400 or 500 attack points, so I would assume if it blows up and directly impacts your life points, Jinochi only has 250 right now, he'll be completely done. And then the other side of it is the attack actually goes through and works. You know that they had to give the kind of moment of, oh, you know, is it going to land on what I want it to land? You knew it was going to land positive for Jinochi. He uses Time Magic, wipes out Red Eye's Black Dragon because he turns like time to like millennia have passed, so he turns to stone, much that kind of they did to the Harpy ladies in the duel against May. And Dinosaur is completely defeated. Everybody's pretty shocked, but this is where I thought the episode was a little weird. Is you don't get the reaction shots of how May is feeling, how really Dinosaur is feeling, like completely like, yeah, you see his life points go to 0 and he's upset and how could I lose, but you don't see anything really after that. You don't see them exchange the star chips. I think a pretty important part of exchanging their cards, nothing. It kind of just stops there. Jinochi runs out to his friends, boom, you know, he's with Honda, you know, and Honda punches him for all the stuff earlier, and it just cuts to the woods, and you're like, oh, okay, that's how we're gonna do this episode? No problem whatsoever. So we get to the second half of the episode, right? And the second half of the episode, this is a really weird episode. The group is once again, they're out in the woods, it's at nighttime, they're saying, hey, no one's dueling at night, and they're starving. And they point out the fact that is 100% true and speaks to the character of Pegasus, of you invite all these great duelists to your island and you don't give them anywhere to sleep and anything to eat, and you just expect them to survive for like 3 days, I think it was 3 days, 72 hours, until they get into the castle or they don't get into the castle. That's it. Like, you just, like, they could be out there starving or not had a shower or not had sleep in 3 days. They've been sleeping under a rock. Doesn't matter. Anyone could come by and jack someone and steal their entire deck in the middle of the night. Doesn't matter whatsoever. So I like that they pointed that out, and they kind of point out, you know, they have a lot of comedic beats here in the second half of the episode. Some really weird stuff, weird things that you would say if this is a children's show, that how are they having in this episode. But, you know, May comes along, and of course, probably being the, you know, the rich kind of girl she is. I remember someone last time or 2 times ago. No, it was the most recent one, where I looked up for episode 11 that May is 24 years old. So, you know, maybe she has a little bit more money, a little bit more push in the world. Who knows? She has a whole bunch of food. She has a tent. She has a shower. And she seemingly, not even seemingly, she outright shares it with the group that she doesn't seem to like whatsoever. She doesn't, you know, she has some kind of rivalry thing there with Jinochi. She didn't seem to like Anzu, and yet she's getting along with her, and specifically is having, you know, is kind of splitting up all the duties, telling everyone what to do, which Jinochi doesn't like, but it gets everything done. They get a fire going, they get food to eat, she sets up the shower that somehow, I don't know where, did she have that in her bag? She had an entire shower to set up in her bag, and she protects Anzu and kind of stands guard while she's in there, and like, it's a completely like needless, like, you could just say off screen that Anzu is, you know, having a shower. Like, you don't really need to have like this whole kind of subplot of it, and then, you know, the boys, Honda and Jinochi, later when they hear something rustling in the woods, trying to kind of like get into the shower. That's kind of the inappropriate weird crap of this episode. But this back half of the episode did one important thing, 2 important things, but one starting off, it kind of explained a little bit of the backstory of May, of that, hey, she used to, you know, she sees a cruise liner out, you know, in the ocean, kind of something similar that they came to Duelist Kingdom of, and she's like, yeah, you know, I worked on these casino ships, I used to be a dealer there, and she didn't like how kind of people just throw around money, the way that those people ask, and you know, the way those people act, and it kind of made her sick of all of that money, sick of people, sick of everything. And so her idea was, you know, that she said a few episodes ago, is that, you know, she wanted to travel the world and see all the sights and things like that. Well, maybe she had an issue where when she was a casino dealer, which, yeah, hey, you have some power, you have some prominence with the wealthy, right? But at the end of the day, you're just a dealer, right? And so they're going to see you beneath them, of course, because they're the ones with the money, with the prestige, with the status, right? Maybe she was not only sick of being put down, which is a possibility of when she was doing that job, but she experienced that any way to get respect in this world, as she's some young, you know, 24-year-old, is that I need to be like them, because we kind of reflect in life what we have as our experiences, right? So if you grew up in a rough situation, that's going to usually make a tougher person that can be adaptable and get out of situations and stuff like that. If you grew up in more of a lavish life, it's going to be easier. You might be quote-unquote soft, or it's harder to deal with things if you've always had a silver spoon in your mouth. That also being said, if you're someone who has worked for the wealthy, you can see that as one of two ways. I hate this life. I never want to be this type of person because these people are disrespectful. Or I can see it as I want to reflect that life that I was, you know, I was working for the wealthy. I want to be the wealthy. I want people to work for me because I see how awesome of a life those people are living. And yeah, it made me sick of dealing with them, but I want to be the people, I want to be the person that people are sick of dealing with me. And so maybe that is kind of a little bit of, you know, it's a little egotistical, but that could be the back of what May is wanting. Or it could be her, you know, being sick of people, that she wants to travel the world because she wants to get away from dealing with all these things, and she wants to find people that actually care about her for her. And maybe that's not a situation of, if she has the money, you know, money can be a tool to do a lot of amazing things, and maybe that's why she wants that. So I don't know, we'll see. I thought that was pretty interesting to kind of dissect that little scene there, but you know, we'll see going forward. They hear something in the woods. We get the, you know, the inappropriate scene, like I said, of the boys trying to get into Anzu's shower. May knocks them out, rightfully, and it looks like they're making a little, maybe a bit of popcorn, a little bit of rice, who knows what they're eating. They're enjoying it, and May makes it clear that, hey, you know, we're friends now, but we're enemies tomorrow. And the group is kind of shocked by that. And I'm like, do you not seen what she has done to you for the first few episodes? Through the first 12 episodes here? She just had her servant try to knock Jinochi off the island. So I thought that was pretty, pretty dumb of them. Pretty kind of, naive of them not to realize. And so it gets another scene of May kind of going back out to the shoreline, to the cliff, looking out onto the ocean and saying, it's not like me to kind of reminisce about the past, so something has clearly hurt her. And then a giant man comes out of nowhere who is wearing a dual glove, who has a whole bunch of star chips on it, just kidnaps her, and that's the last we see of her. Covers her mouth so she can't scream. We have no idea where she is. You know, Anzu points out, like, oh, hey, where did May go? The other guys are like, you know, especially Jinochi, yeah, you know, she can do whatever she pleases. Doesn't really matter. She'll come back. And then we hear someone come out of the woods, and you're like, wait a second, is it going to be the giant guy? No, it's Bakura, which is a character that we've seen a couple times that Anzu thought she was losing her mind. Was he on the ship? Was he on the island? He's been super, super creepy, kind of acting almost like a ghost. He just, you know, comes out of the woods. No one thinks, you know, the entire group is kind of has their guard down. They seem to possibly have a history because they know who he is. They seem to be comfortable with him and are glad that, oh, hey, we're going to have more support on this island. So I don't know. You guys can let me know down below what kind of history that they have together, because for me, watching the first 12 episodes, this is the first time that they've actually met and had a scene together, even though Anzu recognized Bakura before. But they're having this whole scene where Bakura is talking about, hey, their favorite cards, and so, you know, Jinochi says, you know, the Flame Swordsman, and Yuki obviously picks, you know, a Black Magician, you know, Cyber Commander goes for Honda, and Anzu picks a card as well, and then Bakura picks a card, and he goes, well, Change of Heart. Well, Anzu picked Magician of Faith, but Bakura goes Change of Heart, which I think speaks to exactly what he does in this episode, that he definitely has a change of heart that I think he's kind of ruled by maybe two hearts, that he's one Bakura and one evil Bakura, as we see here at the end of the episode, or that could just be a personification, a symbolism that he kind of changes on a dime, and that he puts on a masquerade of being their friend and being someone that they can trust, but he is really an evil son of a bitch. And we see that when, you know, everyone points out, you know, change of heart, that's a really weird card to kind of have as your favorite card. And he's like, yeah, Yuki, can you duel me? You know, obviously not for star chips, you know, and Yuki's like, yeah, it'd be nice, you know, just to have a casual duel. Everyone's for it. Awesome. You know, let's everyone put their favorite cards into Yuki's deck, all that stuff, blah, 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 blah. Great idea. You have that moment, and then all of a sudden, Bakura changes exactly who he is. Sound changes completely. You see that he has a Millennium puzzle piece. So he has one of the Millennium items. We know now that Bakura has one. We know that Yugi has one. And we know Pegasus has one. We know Yugi's somehow changes between two sides of him, two personalities of him, pieces of him. That's not really been explained. We see that Pegasus maybe does something with the mind with his piece. We're not really sure there, or I'm not sure watching this forward so far. But you then see Bakura, maybe the change of heart thing is he can affect the heart with his Millennium item, maybe the soul, because he breaks everyone apart, kind of like their souls out of their body. This immediately becomes a shadow game. The entire episode at the end here, which has been a really weird episode, flips on its head, and he thinks that he's just going to walk off, take the Millennium Puzzle, says, that was too easy, way easier than I thought it was going to be, and then Yugi's other side comes out, and that is the one that accepts the shadow game. Bakura does not seem shocked by that at all. He's not shocked that the other Yugi part came out. He was kind of wondering when that was going to happen, and he seems like he's looking forward to the duel. And so where it seems where Pegasus did that to Yuki's grandpa earlier in the show, where it kind of like split him up and took like the soul out of him and took him away. Is that what Bakura did? Is it something different? You would think the Millennium pieces all have kind of different powers whatsoever. And so it has to be, I would think it would have to be something with the heart, is why you would point out the change of heart. But guys, a very packed episode for a very weird episode of Duel Monsters. I definitely think there was a lot there to dissect. I definitely talked a lot about this episode, so please let me know what you guys thought down below of this episode, what is to come. No spoilers, obviously, but man, what a terrifying introduction there of Bakura. The one thing I will say as a criticism is, and I asked Dylan about this after I watched the episode, is Bakura has a voice actor that is a woman, and so I think that's a little bit weird, and I know that's a very anime and a very Japanese anime kind of thing, but I think it's always weird, especially when you're trying to have you're not only having a character that is a male, that you are expressing completely as a male, but has a female voice actress. That's a little weird. Why would you not just have a male voice actress, even if he has a little bit of like a young voice because he's a young kid and he hasn't gone through puberty? I always think that's a weird choice. And then to have also that kind of falsetto, kind of higher pitched voice that you're having from a voice actress that is a female. The issue with that is it's hard to kind of have that kind of terrifying villain presence, especially in a male character. That's kind of hard to portray across the screen, but I still think he was terrifying when he kind of brought out his Millennium item there. I just wish his voice was a little bit different. But guys, let me know what you thought, all of that down below, of maybe the little criticisms I've had of this episode, or what you think in all kind of the little details that we got throughout this entire episode. I'm going to switch over to GX episode 12, so I'll be right back. Alright guys, welcome back to the GX side of the review, episode 12, Oxygen plus Hydrogen equals Water Dragon, and we see how meaningful that becomes during the episode here. This out of, I would say, the 3 episodes this week was probably my favorite episode, which is kind of a rarity to say something about GX these days, but definitely I really enjoyed kind of the sentiment behind this, and it was really nice. It was really nice in this episode to have a duel going on that didn't have to deal with Judai. And I understand you're going to say, well, Pete, you know, you had Haito and his father duel, you know, like 3 episodes or so ago. Okay, well, his drunk dad. Like, no, I want to see like one of our prominent meaningful characters that's probably going to stick around in a while duel each other, and it not be associated with Judai in any tag team duel, any 1v1 duel, nothing. And so that was really kind of nice to see two quote-unquote adversaries of Judai in Misawa and Manjomi go against each other. In this episode, although Misawa is probably more of a friend to Judai, and that's what this episode was about. It was kind of about their budding friendship, and I really did enjoy it. So the episode kind of kicks off there with something that you don't see a lot in Yu-Gi-Oh! Animes. A game going on, at least that I've seen yet, but a game going on that has nothing to do with the card game or anything whatsoever of dueling. They're playing baseball, and most people, you guys out there, maybe if you're not really into other sports or something, you're not going to get a little bit of the things that they're talking about. It's not too in-depth, but a little bit surface kind of baseball knowledge you kind of need at they're talking about at the beginning of the episode, but you could still get the overall kind of idea behind what they are doing here and building up the friendship between Misawa and Judai. And also, baseball is an extremely popular sport in Japan. I think we forget that a lot. Obviously, it's the most popular, I would say, in the United States, but Japan is probably second. They have a fantastic World Baseball team that's won the World Baseball Classic, which is basically like the Super Bowl of baseball, almost like a World Cup, actually, of baseball. So they are a fantastic country in terms of baseball. So it was nice to see them play it at the beginning of this episode. And I like how, the teams there, you have the red armbands and the yellow armbands for, like, what kind of dorm you're in. And Judai is talking about how, he's going to hit basically a grand slam and, win the game for his team here. And Misawa comes into pitch, and they kind of have this representation of Misawa being, like a tiger, and Judai being the dragon, and, they're kind of having a back and forth about, Misawa saying, hey, he's got the calculation to beat you. Judai says, I'm surprised, kind of you've shown your face here, because I'm going to beat you in this game and stuff like that, and basically, win it for everyone and, embarrass you a little bit. And so, but it was all playful. It wasn't really them, like, going at each other. It was just playful competition, a little bit of trash talk there. So I really like that. I really like how Misawa, too, the reason why he's late is he got into a discussion about, like, deck structure, and, like, the debate went on too long. That is so Misawa, and you see, like, he's fleshed out so much more in this episode, and you see that he really is like a goddamn genius out of all of these characters that so far we've been introduced to. Maybe we haven't seen too much, I'd say, of the Kaiser, but he's probably on par with the Kaiser in terms of just raw intelligence. In terms of intelligence outside of dueling, he might be the smartest in the entire academy. I mean, he showcases later when you go back to his dorm real equations like Schrodinger's cat and things like that are in the real world. So he obviously calculates things that are outside of dueling. He has other interests, so I really like that. But in the actual baseball game, Judai gets struck out by Misawa. Then Judai purposely walks 3 batters to get to Misawa and, to try to strike him out and return the favor, and Misawa wins the game and hits a grand slam. And that ball incidentally hits Instructor Kronos, which, he starts flipping out on Judai and Sho, which somehow get from home plate to, like, the outfield, and, like, you would assume beyond the wall that he hit a home run in, like, a second. So that I always find that is funny. It's like a classic anime thing. Misawa comes over and, apologizes, offers to, pay for the hospital bills, and Kronos basically takes the opportunity to go, Manjomi's been kind of a waste. He wants someone that's kind of, in the school as a student that he could kind of control like a puppet, and with Manjomi keep going down in his grades, in losing to people like Judai who were in the dreaded red dorm, right? He goes, who's someone with fantastic grades, the best grades in his class, someone who's an excellent duelist? Misawa. And so I'll use him next as the puppet. So he tries to convince him that, hey, instead of you paying the hospital fees, how about you do this for me? And, as a possible dorm swapping test. And he sets that whole thing up and, yells at Judai and Sho, and they run off there. It cuts to Manjomi, and Manjomi, it shows how I guess at the top of it, right, the privilege that you had, and Kronos says it specifically, is that he outright says people with excellent grades at this academy get leniency. So he outright says that, hey, if you're one of the top students, yeah, we might let things go like, I don't know, even though it's an accident, injuring an instructor or cheating or anything. Like, that's pretty messed up to just outright state that corruption, especially in front of two other people in Judai and Sho. So I thought that was really ballsy of Kronos, and he just continues to kind of just be, you know, someone that's always kind of thwarted. We always, you know, he's always trying to troll and mess with our characters and get them kicked out of the academy, and he's always kind of thwarted and embarrassed. And I love seeing that over and over. I love watching him get hit in the face with a baseball and get a black eye. I know that probably sounds messed up, but he's just a horrible person. And maybe he'll progress more as a character as he goes on. Maybe Manjome will as well. But we see Manjome, the privilege that he gets is being at the top of his class, or that he was at the top of his class in his specific grade in Obelisk Blue, because we know, obviously, we would assume Asuka is pretty high up in the grading system in the structure of Obelisk Blue. We know the Kaiser is the top of the top. He's the cream of the crop. But Manjome had to be up there for his class. He's not really that anymore. He's been slipping. But he walks in and he wants a drink and a massage in the middle of class. And I'm like, this man, like, what the hell does he think he is? I guess that's how it is when you're the top, when you have the privilege. And he's immediately, you know, they took his nameplate off his seat. He's thrown into the corner. Kronos embarrasses him in front of the entire class and said, yeah, it's because, you lost to, someone from the Cypher Red, and you're now also going to have your dorm placement at risk, that you might get downgraded to Rai Yellow against Misawa. And so poor Manjome in a way, and I say poor Manjome because he's a piece of crap, but also, like, you feel bad for the guy that he gets laughed out of class and the embarrassment that he feels. It cuts to Misawa, and he says, the punishment for, him beating Judai and Sho in the baseball game. You think, oh man, is it going to be something sinister? No, of course not. I mean, they seem to be a budding friendship, even though they're going to be adversaries on the dueling grounds. And I like that Misawa is a down-to-earth, genuine person that, they say in this episode, he's associating with people from the Red Dorm. He's sleeping there in the Red Dorm after they painted his room and they fooled around and were throwing paint at each other and messing around. He's giving them lobster. And Judai is like, this is better than I was treated on my birthday. And it shows the type of person that Misawa is, that he's a very down-to-earth, very cares about actual people, no matter what their class is, what their dorm is, what backgrounds they come from. Are they a good person at heart? And that is, I think, is what he's attracted to and wants a friendship in. And I really like the budding friendship between the three of them. And it shows even for Judai and Sho, and I think this kind of took Misawa a little bit off guard, is that they're not only thankful, they're excited and happy for him that it looks like he's going to get promoted to Obelisk Blue. Like, they're genuinely excited for him, even though he's saying, hey, it's not a done deal yet, everything else. And that really, I think, means a lot to him. Maybe he's someone who comes from someone that didn't have a lot of friends. Maybe he was the, quote-unquote nerd of the class, and he was kind of an outcast because he was such a genius. And now he's forming these possible connections of friendship, of trying to find genuine people that care about him for him, not only respect his dueling, but care about him for him. And I really like those scenes there. It cuts to Manjome, and we see a little bit of what kind of spurs him on and the pressure that he endures. So it gains me a tiny bit of sympathy for him, Manjome, but not too much. You see that his brothers, older brothers, obviously, one is the top of the financial world, one is the top of the political world, and he wants to be the top of the card game, and that's their plan. The Manjome brothers rule the world and things like that, and he doesn't tell his brothers, obviously, all the hardship he is going through, but you could see that that's what motivates him and puts the pressure on him. He probably, comes from a very rich, successful family, and anyone that's ever had successful siblings or parents, especially, older siblings, that could put a lot of pressure on a younger sibling to achieve and be something in your parents' eyes, and trying to be the top of the world in 3 separate categories, and your brothers have accomplished 2 of them. You're the one they're waiting on. That is a lot of pressure. So you could see how that maybe makes Manjome the way he is, and maybe makes him the little, kind of sneevy little, kind of piece of crap that he is, but still doesn't. You make your own way in the world, and that doesn't excuse all his actions. It doesn't excuse his actions that to try to get an edge up, he throws Misawa's cards that Misawa stupidly left in the hallway when they were painting his room. he throws them all into the ocean. You know, that's not right. That's something that is completely an underhanded tactic. And you know what, Misawa has to go there. Judai immediately accuses Manjome of it because, you know, they have a history, obviously, and Judai sees what kind of a piece of work Manjome really is. And Manjome says, oh, you know, if we're going to accuse anything like this, you know, let's kind of put our places here at the academy on the line, that the loser kind of leaves the academy. And as really, you know, he's talking about this, Asuka comes in with the Kaiser and says, yeah, I seen you throw those cards off the cliff this morning. It's definitely more than an accusation. And then, you know, Manjome tries to play it off of like, oh, those were my old cards that I was getting rid of. There's no proof that, you know, it was anyone else's cards. It was his name written on it. And Misawa proves that with the equation thing at the end of the episode. But Misawa, of course, takes the duel. You know, Manjome is still trying to impress, you know, Kronos and live up to that. And Kronos is kind of sitting back enjoying this because either way, this kind of works out for him, whoever wins. And, you know, Misawa kind of reveals that, hey, you know, those were other, you know, decks that I was messing around with. And that's a deck that he won the entrance exam to. And he kind of rips his jacket open. He has 6 other decks, all for the different attributes. If I'm Misawa, I wouldn't go in public and open my jacket like that, because you kind of look like a, you have a bomb vest strapped to your chest there, buddy. But I understand the principle that maybe they weren't thinking about that when they kind of did that to him, and, you know, put also red cases for the cards too, for the 6 decks. So that was a little bit funny to me. And he uses this later on where it's like, oh, you know, everyone's wondering what deck did he pick, blah blah blah. Manjome uses like almost like a video game. He uses like you know what actually he reminded me of? If anyone plays Pokemon Go, he reminded me of a team Rocket Grunt, where like if you see the words that they mock you at the beginning, you could tell like what kind of deck they have. That's exactly what Manjome does, and it allows Misawa to have the water deck, which is going to, you know, be a good attribute to use against Manjome's fire deck. And they go back and forth. The duel is very, very entertaining of how he's using his hydrogen monsters and then his oxygen monsters. You know, Manjome's using the soldiers. He's linking them together. You know, anytime the soldiers are destroyed, that damage that he takes, the life points he loses, is also reflected on his opponent, on Misawa. And so it's kind of whittling them both down over and over. You know, and the Kaiser is kind of saying like, oh, you know, what's his plan going to be, as, you know, he got all the 3 soldiers out that only have 1,200 attack points, and he arrogantly said that not only I'm going to win this, but I'm going to take your position one day. He shouted out to the Kaiser. Yeah, Manjome looked bad all around as he ended up losing this duel, but it was a great back and forth duel. There's not really like a total amount of like detail that I could describe about it, because, you know, it was just about linking monsters together, powering up his 1 soldier to 3,600, Misawa getting the oxygen and the 2 hydrogen monsters on the field to use the spell card H2O to bond them together to get Water Dragon, which, you know, then when Manjome gets the incinerator later, when he attributes the 1 soldier and all the other cards in his hand to get the incinerator, powers it up to 3,400, does all that stuff. The water attribute, the attribute for Water Dragon, the effect it has is that it can reduce in the battles all monsters with fire attribute to 0, and he's able to defeat kind of Manjome, and they're back and forth, and they're kind of bantered throughout the entire episode. I thought it was very entertaining, and like I said, very refreshing that it was 2 characters that had nothing to do with Judai, that were major characters that are seemingly going to be in the show, the 2 kind of adversaries or people that could stand in the way of Judai progressing through the academy, them dueling. You know, you can't call Misawa a villain because they seem like they're very much friends, but that was very nice to see, and I really enjoyed that Asuka and Kaiser were also there to kind of witness the duel. We had all of our major characters, all the people that have really dueled of consequence in one area. No Haito this episode. Surprisingly, he was only in that one part in the dorm talking about when him and Sho were talking about how Misawa is okay to stay in a red dorm, was not at the duel grounds itself. So I thought that was fairly interesting. But I like that Misawa wins, and at the end, you know, he kind of tells Manjome that not only, hey, I have this notes on the card, so I know that those were my cards that you threw in there, I could prove it, but he explains the whole, Team Rocket thing that I kind of said at the beginning of how he beat Manjomi from the start. And then Manjomi gets one final kick in the nuts, kind of, when he's like, yeah, I'm building a 7th deck to beat your elemental hero deck, Judai, because I want to become number 1. He regards Judai as number 1. And then Manjomi realizes that he lost to another test deck. And so kind of it's a little bit of a slight towards him. So I thought that was really funny. Interesting that they call each other the number 1 and 2, even though the Kaiser is standing right there. But I guess they mean in their respective grades, he seems to be the upperclassman, Rio does, and they're the lower classmen. So I think that's what they meant. And you get that final shot that they're excited to meet each other when the 7th deck is done, when he writes more equations and researches more things, Misawa, and you get kind of the silhouettes of the two of them facing, and the dragon and the tiger there silhouette as well. So yeah, really enjoyable episode. Probably my favorite episode out of the 3 this week. But guys, let me know what you thought of kind of the first major duel of consequence in GX that did not have to take place with Judai between Manjomi and Misawa. What does that mean for these characters going forward? I would assume Manjomi's not going to get kicked out, and there's going to be some stipulation of how he could say, but no spoilers. But please let me know what you thought of the episode, their dueling, and any other things I missed down below. With that out of the way, I'm going to jump over for the final part of this review for the 5Ds episode 12, so I'll be right back. Alright guys, and welcome back to the third and final part of this review, the 5Ds part of the review, episode 12, Dead Chase, Weave the Bonds, Turbo Warrior. So, usually as 5Ds has, they're not too creative on the titles of their episodes, but we pick up where we kind of left off last episode. This is kind of the second continuation duel between Yusei and the officer, where he's trying to escape the public health maintenance building when he rescued, I say rescue, or stole back if you want to look at, his D-wheel, but it was kind of unfairly taken from him in the first place because of the way how they treat satellite citizens. And you pick up last time where it was just Yusei had 3,500 life points left, and the officer had, I think they call him Trudge or whatever, he had 4,000. And it got to this point, he had his standard 4,000, he didn't lose a life point yet, and it got to this point where all the barriers were being blocked off. How was Yusei going to escape? He was more concerned with escaping than actually having the duel go on and winning it. And there's a moment where, Saiga at the end of the episode says, keep going. He yells at him, he screams at him to keep going. And that somehow maybe he hacked the door open and that Yusei could kind of give that last little bit, that if he charges through it, it'll be weakened enough that, he won't be, like kind of a bug on a windshield, and he'll go through the door and be able to continue to go down. And that's exactly what happens, except the officer at one point thinks, oh yeah, there's another way you could surrender. He thinks he's basically committing suicide, but no, he busts through the doors, goes down the elevator shaft, and it was a really cool, great animation, I said last episode, and it continued in this episode, that they're still dueling as Yusei's losing some of his speed counters, and as the officer is gaining more of the speed counters and saying, I'll chase you to the depths of hell, they're still dueling inside the elevator as they're falling down the elevator shaft. So I thought that was just like a really cool thing that was going on there, and how Saiga's just in Yusei's ear talking to him about, like, when to break through the wall, when to, kind of pop up your D-wheel so it, like, kind of ridiculously bounces on one wheel and he doesn't die from the massive gravity fall that he has to be going down. But again, it's a cartoon, it's an anime, and they were able to bust, he busts through the elevator, and then Trudge has to wait until the elevator kind of beeps open again for him to, like, zoom out. So it's all those, like, little clever kind of comedic moments that are great in a very otherwise serious show. But I also like how the duel is not only real world, obviously, but it's affected by the real world. So when Yusei takes that first shot by Search Striker, I think it is, and he goes down to 1,400 life points or whatever, he's struggling to stay on the bike. He almost flew off. He's only holding on it by, one hand. He struggled to flip over his trap car. And to me, if he didn't have enough strength and willpower to click that button against the air resistance as they're going down the elevator shaft, he would have lost, even though he had the card to counteract that. So I like how the real world affects the duel as it is going on. He uses one of, like, some confusion, something trap, which basically creates the you could use when you're targeted as a second direct attack in a row, and that monster that was about to deliver that second attack fights the monster that had the first direct attack go through, so that he finally got through to Trudge, and he lowered down to the 3,300 life points, and he lowered his Search Striker because it was powered up in that moment there. So I like that back and forth that you have between the two of them. This is a couple times now we're seeing them duel, and how they're smashing. Really, Officer is kind of just smashing his bike into Yusei and keeps berating him. And in that moment, that's when Seiya comes by. Kind of looks like he knocks him down as they're going through, and then they have this moment where, this is not maybe the appropriate moment to talk about the backstory of Seiya once again, but it fits in the moment. And he was like, I came to see with that guy who was babbling on about friendships. I'm not sentimental like that, but I figured, hey, he'll pay me some cash, if I help him out. And yes, I believe Seiya actually thinks that, but also he did it because I think he's starting to develop a little bit of care or connection to the things that Yusei is preaching. He's always preaching about friends. You could almost make a meme page out about how he's always talking about the bond of his friends, but it does mean a lot of things that are worthwhile, and it speaks to the character that he is, and it is the theme of the show, and it's very important. And there's a great shot, there's a great edit in this episode where, as they're going down the public health maintenance building, which looks very Tron Legacy, I said last review, kind of Speed Racer style. There's a shot where you have all of that, them zooming past all of the columns that are in the building, and then that seamlessly cuts into almost the racetrack where Saiga's remembering him and Yuji when they were back doing that semi-pro Duelist League, when he said Yuji was my best friend. They were winning a lot and everything, but he had aspirations to go kind of duel in a singles way and go up to the pro level league, and he was going to leave his friend behind. And he says in this episode that, you could call people friends, you could trust them, you could do all these things, but at the end of the day, the more that you talk about them is the more that you're really talking about yourself, and that you use them, you lie to them, and at the end, you easily betray them. And that's how Seiya did it, and that's how he sees himself, and he sees friendships in general. And he recalls when he's dueling with Yuji, they were always using the Machina Sniper move as kind of their signature final move to wipe out opponents. You do that, though, you become predictable, and you need to change things up. And he was yelling at Yuji about that because he obviously has aspirations to go big and go on his own. But he's also using the relationship that he has with Yuji, and almost he's saying Yuji's carelessness out there when they're dueling is why he can't duel with him anymore, why he needs to be in singles and go pro and do all that stuff. And as Yuji's about to say, the effect from the graveyard will still be seemingly fine, or there'll be some kind of turn to the situation, the bike in front of them, their opponents, somehow crashed. It spun into them, broke their bike, and we get that scene that we had last episode where he could have tried to save Yuji and grab his hand, and he chose self-preservation, let Yuji crash. The thing that we get in this episode is Yuji actually didn't get seriously hurt from the actual crash itself. He got hurt once he went back in to save the Machina Sniper card. That's when he got hurt and was forced to retire, and that's why Seiya believes that, even though he hasn't said it to him, that he believes that Yuji hates him to this day. And when he says that, Yusei, with that information now, goes, no, that actually proves that he doesn't hate you, that he repaired this card, that he went back in for that card after you seemingly, you betrayed him, you chose self-preservation there. That would hurt anyone. You would feel some type of way if your friend did that to you, wouldn't you? And he still said that he went in there to save my card, our card. That's what Yuji said about it. And Yusei goes, friend, the word friend can be an illusion, but if that bond remains, it's real, he says. And by saving that card and repairing it all these years later and sending it to you, he's saying that bond is still there between Yuji and Seiya. And he's saying that he doesn't hate you and that you need to see the other side of it. And I think that was really telling for what Seiya does at the end of the episode, and speaks to, again, why Yusei can inspire people around him, but he believes wholeheartedly in the bond that he has with his friends. That's what keeps him going through everything, through the persecution he goes through all the people trying to break him down and steal his D-wheel and steal his deck and put him in prison. He keeps that bond alive, and I hope his friends appreciate that when he gets back to him, and I hope they always stay by him, because having friends in the world, it's an important thing, and it can keep people like him, who seemingly doesn't have any family, that's what keeps him going. The duel itself back and forth when, he summons Speed Warrior, Yusei, and then, they take out Power Bind, so, he's not able to use him, and he's not able to up the attack points to the 1800, because, it's normally doubled when you summon Speed Warrior. It goes back down to 0. Trudge thinks that he is predicting everything that Yusei is going to do. He's calling him a fool, it's garbage, but in reality, it's actually Yusei knows what he's doing, and he's playing the officer. He's bringing out the healing wave generator. He knows when the final countdown trap is put in motion by Trudge. He knows that, hey, if I have 1,600 attack points, that means that he has to put 3 cards down to put them in the graveyard to take me out all in one shot. Now, you guys could tell me down below, because normally you could set multiple cards in a turn. We see that all the time. So is it a situation where for that specific trap card, he could only set 1 card at a time, and that he could only use it once in terms of knocking it out? So he doesn't want to use it too early and only take away 500 or 1,500 attack. He wants to wipe him out in one shot. So is that the stipulations with that card? You guys could definitely let me know down below, because I would love to hear more of an explanation on it. Yusei kind of comes back at him and kind of reverses an attack on him and causes Trudge to lose the original attack points of Speed Warrior, which was 900, gets him down to 2,400. Eventually, the wave generator gets stolen by Trudge after Yusei, used the iron, scrap scarecrow, whatever, which normally nullifies any attack for the turn. But in this case, that saves him there. But it allows Trudge to activate the final countdown, and then the next turn, he's able to get around that with his Guile Guardian. He's able to get around any trap cards whatsoever, and he really puts Yusei in a position where Yusei has to, kind of bring himself back. He goes and summons some synchros after, Trudge did his synchro, and he's able to summon a whole bunch of stuff in the field where his synchro monster, he attacks the generator, puts himself all the way down to 100 life points, and the only reason is he needed to attack something that had low enough, obviously, attack points that it wouldn't nullify all of Yusei's life points, but he had to have that monster attack so he can start its effect. And he gets about 3 other monsters on the field, and he summons Speed Warrior? No, it was Turbo Warrior. He summons Turbo Warrior with 4 monsters to synchro summon, which I don't believe we've seen that so far in the show, to see 4 monsters, with the synchro summon. And, Trudge throughout the episode the man's crazy, right? He's not only obsessed with Yusei, but he's a little bit nuts in saying, with the heal generator, it's regenerating me, I'm being resurrected, and all the things he says, like, he's definitely out of his mind. And when Yusei brings out Turbo Warrior, it still looks at it like he's at a disadvantage from 2,500 attack points to 2,800 attack points, but the effect that Turbo Warrior has is any monster level 6 or above, their attack gets knifed in half, so he goes down to 1,400, and then on top of that, he uses, I think, Synchro Strike, a trap card or a spell card or whatever, which allows him to, every monster that came together to make Turbo Warrior, you gain 500 attack, so he gains 2,000 there because it took 4 monsters to bring them together, goes up to 4,500, and as he's about to wipe out Trudge, that's when Trudge kind of cheats and again brings in the real life scenario that just because they're playing a game here, they can be affected by the real world. And Yusei couldn't get off that last shot while Trudge is bumping into him over and over and trying to knock him off his bike and cheat because he knows he's about to lose. And all the things that have been building up over the last 2 episodes, particularly in this episode, and the things he said about bonds, Yusei to Seiya, allowed Seiya to protect him, to let Yusei get off his final shot to win the duel, and then it knocks Seiya, ends up knocking him and Trudge off the bike, and he tells Yusei to go, just run, get out of there. So you would imagine Yusei, being the person he is, being that he's probably going to see Seiya as a friend now, he's going to have to go back and rescue him at some point because he's probably going to be imprisoned and tortured. But I thought that was a really powerful moment there of, Seiya yelling at him, to not only do it, connect the bond, all that other stuff. I really enjoyed how that character's progressed just in 2 episodes. I think they did a really good job kind of detailing him and the relationship that is quickly built between Yusei and Seiya. Yusei, wins, he gets out. Seiya, as I said, him and Trudge are down, and he's getting electrocuted by stun batons from all these guards. Yusei is always, is there not an episode where this man isn't going through some kind of pain, peril, or torture? I'm waiting to see it, because he has suffered the most so far out of any of these 3 shows of the characters so far. He's gone through a lot. And we get this weird transition scene, which obviously will mean something in the episodes going forward, of 2 siblings, you would imagine, because, it's anime and they both have the same hair color, so you'd seem like they're related. 2 children playing the card game, playing Yu-Gi-Oh! They're playing, they're dueling, and one of them almost gets a sense when Yusei is electrocuted, almost like they have some kind of bond, some kind of, the show is about bonds. They have some kind of connection to each other where he can sense it, almost like a sixth sense. That sibling, you would imagine, maybe they're twins, maybe not, is called Luca. Because that name is said, it says, Luca, what's the matter? I think that's a girl, and I'm assuming the other one's a guy, so maybe twins, a boy and a girl. They run out of their house, their apartment, whatever. Yusei crashes outside where they are, so it's almost like Luca can sense that Yusei was coming. They ask, who is he? Luca, who is he? Boom, episode ends. So there's got to be something, obviously, more to those characters going forward. I really like how that was teased. It was a good episode. It was a really solid episode. And I would say over these last 2 episodes, Seiya has been the standout. I really hope that character appears again. And I would think so, since Yusei's probably going to feel indebted to him to kind of go rescue him. So, guys, that's kind of my thoughts here on episode 12 of 5Ds. Let me know what you thought of this episode down below, kind of the conclusion to the officer Yusei part 2 duel that we had going here, what you think is going to happen to Seiya going forward, and who are these 2 mystery characters at the end. Let me know that all down below, and how kind of Saiga's backstory and all those things him and Yusei talked about. I think those meaningful moments, what did they mean to you? I would love to hear that down below. So, guys, that concludes episode 12's review. It's been a long one, so thank you for sticking by. If you listen to the end, or even if you listen to just one part, only one of the shows interests you, I really appreciate you listening. As I always say every episode, please, I like to read the comments and respond and like things and everything else. Please don't write any spoilers down below. I don't care if they're major, they're minor. Don't write that, because it makes my experience better. And then in turn, I would hope to think that it makes your experience better, since it doesn't spoil the episode for me, and I could have a genuine reaction in these reviews and a genuine discussion, and I don't know what's about to happen. So please refrain from doing that down below. I would really appreciate it, guys. But yeah, that kind of wraps us up here, guys. Like the video, subscribe to the channel here. Stay tuned for more podcasts, more great videos that Dylan has coming out. Obviously, we're in the quarantine arc now, guys. There is no Yu-Gi-Oh! 7s going on because of what is going on in the world today. So please stay healthy and safe, and take care of your loved ones. It is May, so it is Mental Health Awareness Month. So please make sure to check in on your loved ones and make sure everyone is right, is okay and is doing well in the world. Do not forget to do that, especially in these perilous times. That is of utmost importance. Guys, I love you all. Have a fantastic rest of your week. I'll talk to you down below, and I hope you have a great day, and thanks for watching.